Okay. I think we can start, if you are prepared. My name is Gisela Pentecker. I'm from the German branch of the IPPNW, the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War. And we are part of the campaign since last year. And I'm very happy and grateful that I have been invited to moderate this panel together with my co-moderator, Mr. I have my wrong side. Father Aris. He comes from the Philippines, and maybe he can say a few words to himself, but then we will leave the floor to our panelists because they have a lot of things to tell. And they will give us an overview about the campaign in the different countries and different movements. So we are very excited to hear what are the challenges, what already has been achieved in the different countries. So we will always call them by name when they are on their turn. We lose too much time if I tell who they are now in the beginning. You want to say something?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Father Aris Miranda, a Catholic missionary and a member of Migrante Philippines, one of the big groups of migrants here in Italy, and not only in Italy, but elsewhere in Europe. So we are, in behalf also of the National Democratic Front of the Philippines, we are expressing our solidarity to this cause-free Ocalan, and of course, especially to the questions of the Kurdish people. Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
So we start with Mrs. Zilan Diar. She is TJK General, and she speaks about the achievements and challenges of the campaign in general. Please, the floor is yours.
Benvenuto tutte e a tutti. Io parlo curdo, la mia lingua.
Welcome, everybody. I will be speaking Kurdish, which is my own language. My Italian is not very good, and I prefer to speak in Kurdish.
I would like to greet you all at the beginning, and on behalf of the organizing committee of this conference. It's more than almost 2 years. There are so many people, they put a great effort. They became a part of our voice to break the isolation on Imrala Island. I would like to greet all my brothers and sisters who put their power into this struggle, put their great effort. The idea for organizing this conference, the preparations for which we have been going on for like 4 months, emerged at the end of the 2024. It has a background. But it goes even far back than 2 years, because since Öcalan was captured on İmralı Island, since then we have been preparing for this conference, for this struggle. Today maybe we are only hundreds of people, but in the background there is a bigger society, there is a bigger community in the back. I don't know, this is only the iceberg, as they say in English. I'm sure the interpreters can use that phrase. So this campaign, as I said, became visible the last 2 years, but since the captivity of Mr. Öcalan has never stopped. All the protest of the Kurds, for the Kurds raising their voice, it was for Öcalan, because since his captivity, the Kurds have never accepted this captivity, and they said it will continue, and Öcalan will be part of our struggle. And sometimes, it went up, sometimes it went down. Sometimes we were maybe not strong enough, not hardworking enough. But in any way, there are hundreds of people here, but there are so many people. The connection between us and leader Öcalan, the connection between the Kurdish people and Öcalan, the connection between the women and Öcalan can never be broken. The people are, when these hundreds of people, I say they have understood that this connection will never break. And we know we have friends, but at the beginning, we started from the beginning, we have friends that are accompanying us. Some of our friends have mentioned since the beginning that our friends were here at the demonstrations. Even there were some protesters who set fire on their body to protest this. And there are so many different forms of campaigns. There are people who are arrested. So this all brought this rage, and that also helped us to continue this company. And since the beginning, there are so many comrades that we have lost. I would like to also commemorate them. For all those people who sacrificed themselves for the sake of leader Öcalan, I would like to remember them, commemorate them, because they had so many people who set fire on their bodies. As I said, they said, "You cannot darken our sun." That was a slogan of them. So now, but now we also have a new feeling. So the rage is not enough. No, we also need something else to put on this campaign. It will be also analyzing the system, analyzing the conspiracy. And Öcalan himself, he mentions the hegemonic powers and their alliance against the Kurdish people, a long-term plan. And then in the face of such a strong, organized, complicated conspiracy, you cannot become successful just by rage. So we needed to also reflect, and leader Öcalan also talks about he developed his new paradigm, the democratic confederalism, freedom of women. These are his answer to this international conspiracy. So against these hegemonic powers, you also need to fight with your ideology, with your thoughts, not only with rage. That's how you can actually overcome. So as much as we can actually widespread his ideas, this will also bring a good achievement, and it will ultimately bring an end to the isolation he's subjected to. As leader Öcalan says, I was punished like Prometheus, because like Prometheus, he stole fire from the goddess and gave it to the people. The same thing that Öcalan did, these ideas, that he's sharing it with the people. He is comparing himself as the Prometheus on Imrale Island. So we cannot. That's how we need to understand him. That's why we need to widespread his thoughts. And then our focus was on spreading his ideas and making his ideas belonging to the people. The people should make it their own. That was our main goal. So we face criminalization in different countries. We face the operations. They try to change the perception of the people, and we are called terrorists. So that's how they try to create this perception about the Kurds, about this movement. So we had to put a great effort to break this perception imposed on the people. So Mr. Öcalan, we have many friends who came from Bakur, Kurdistan. There are so many people are still facing prosecution, imprisonment, and torture, but yet they continued their path. They have never given up. So for this cause, you also need some courage. And in September 2023, we started a campaign, and we gathered more than 1 million. Since 2012, the campaign gathered around 10,328,623 signatures worldwide, and similarly in the north of Syria, around 3,017,000 signatures were collected in the last two months last year, although the target was 3 million. And we also evaluate our campaign every time. We see our achievements, how we succeed them, and then we continue, but we also see the shortcomings, that we have the deficits, that how we can do to change it. And there are so many people who went on hunger strike. And then there are also members of parliament. Leyla Güven, for example, she was on hunger strike more than 200 days. And then thousands of political prisoners in Turkish prisons, they also went on hunger strike. Even the prisoners who are deprived of their rights in the prison, they actually they broke this, and then they climbed the mountains, and what they were, so with their strong will, they managed it. And we know that there is a saying that what makes a hole on the stone, it's not the strength of the water, but the continuity of the water. That was our understanding. This means 148 months, 590 weeks, 4,130 days. Every Kurd knows that there's an address in front of the European institutions, CPT, Council of Europe, Committee of Ministers, that was continuous, and every part of the Kurdish society took part, from the Yazidis to the Southerns, for the Shingal, from different parts of Kurdistan. So this is the continuity that make us strong. But how can we continue it? The previous speakers, they also mentioned, how can we continue this, and how can we get better results, and how we can where should we focus, and where should we bring our thoughts and ideas together and find a better. That was the idea. That's how we started in 2023. So those who are creating false perceptions about Öcalan, or those who are criminalized our movement, they don't understand it as a whole. So this very same people, they talk about life, women and freedom, they consider it as something separate, or that they put pressure on the local administrations in North Kurdistan, or in Kobani, the resistance of the YPJ, or the genealogy. But when we look at all these, sometimes they talk about our resistance in Kobani, for example, or the Jinjian Azadi, Women Freedoms Movement. But when you look at them, the source of all these things they go back to Öcalan. That's how we see it, and that's how we should bring them together in order to overcome the obstacles. I don't want to keep it long, but I am convinced where there is injustice, where there is inequality, the power of the truth will prevail. This is the truth. No hegemonic power can fight or resist against the truth, because the truth itself is the power, and our truth is Öcalan. In October 2023, that's how we started this campaign, and we managed very good things. And today, before that, we know that there are so many Kurds who are like hesitant to support Öcalan, or even some of our international friends, they were very hesitant in terms of supporting Öcalan. They were concerned that they will be criminalized, they will be connected or associated with so-called terrorists, but we broke that hesitation. Now we receive support from a much wider society, and the injustice, the lawlessness that Öcalan is subjected to, it was the trigger of this. That is also seen and understood everyone. That's why they became part of this campaign. Some people define Öcalan as a philosopher. Some people define him as a politician or as a revolutionary. So and everybody sees or knows Öcalan in a different way. And Öcalan, Öcalan says that the first colony in the history is the women. As women's organizations, that's how we know him. His commitment for freedom of women. And some people just consider him as a political prisoner deprived of his rights. Everybody had their different reasons, but we brought all these different points, angles. We brought it together, and then everybody had their different reason, but what we needed was a strong will. In more than 150 cities, 105 cities, we had press conferences in 4 continents. We also had reading days and introduced his work to the people. But this is on one side. We had this social movement, social mobilization. But on the other hand, there was also a legal fight. There are procedures, court cases. And we also know that we, as Women's Movement, we sent around 20,000 letters in less than 3 months since 19 April. And as we said, legal initiatives were also multifaceted. And now we see that there are lawyers, there are around 775 lawyers from 29 different bar associations across Turkey. And they applied for a visit to İmralı. And like Leader Öcalan defines he defines this being different, or the differences, or the diversity is the richness of our society. So that's what we did. We brought different people, diverse groups, and we did it on 4 different continents. And there are so many people took part in this, and I would like to thank them once again for this richness and the line with Öcalan's thought, how he talks about the universe, how he defines this world with all these different colors, different diversities. Once again, I would like to thank them for their effort, and I believe that It is a very critical process, and this is a we're at a crossroads. We Kurds sometimes we have a saying. We said we Kurds, we are also sometimes getting tired because we are in a constant struggle, but we never give up because we are very strong-willed, we are determined, and we will continue. And now the last visit, together with our Mr. Öcalan, gave us hope again. We want to see him free again, and he should be provided with necessary circumstances, conditions in terms of security and health, so that he can play his role as a peacemaker. Once again, thank you very much joining us today, and we are welcoming your supports for future, and let's put hands in hand and bring Öcalan to freedom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zilan, for such inspiring the achievement as well as challenges of the campaign. And now let us move to Mr. Nicola Frattuiani, Member of Parliament and National Secretary of Sinistra Italiana. The floor is yours.
Grazie innanzitutto per questo.
First of all, thank you for the invite. I'm here to say once again how we completely endorse, as a party, Sinistra Italiana and the parliamentaries of Alleanza Verdi Sinistra in the Italian and European Parliament, how we endorse the campaign for the liberation of Öcalan. Our endorsement to the Kurdish cause. I'm part of a political generation which was raised getting to know this incredible story. And I still remember those days in Rome in 1999. Here there are many people who were in the streets that day. The day when Öcalan in Rome gave us the possibility to imagine the dawning of a new era, but that time closed in the worst way possible. Öcalan was forced to leave the country, a country which didn't have the courage to protect him, to grant him the protection that he deserved, and to give him the political platform for a different solution in the conflict that Turkey is bringing forth on the Turkish people and their rights. Öcalan was forced to leave the country and then was arrested in Kenya and transferred to the prison where he is still imprisoned in for 26 years. An imprisonment which violates the most basic principles of human life and humanitarian rights. In these years, we have kept being part of this story with all the tools we have, even in the Italian and European Parliament. In many occasions, also not explicitly dedicated to this matter, but we have still made initiatives explicitly tied to Öcalan's story and his experience, Syrian Kurdistan, Rojava, democratic confederalism. But even when the political debate didn't have to do specifically with this, we still tried to keep this matter alive, this topic alive, and to make sure that it didn't disappear from public debate. There was a time when the institutions of the Italian Republic discussed this, but for many years this debate has been expelled from Italian Parliament. Only a couple years ago, In June 2022, when the Italian Parliament voted to ratify the decision of Sweden and Finland to enter NATO, only 2 years ago, I was the only member of Parliament who voted against that choice. And not just because of my opinion on the geopolitical situation on NATO and what was happening in the world at the time, but I was the only member of Parliament who reminded everybody that in that treaty, which was waiting for the approval of Erdogan, had as a counterpart the willingness of Sweden and Finland to let Turkey do what it was doing. We often, with Yilmaz, we have often I thank Yilmaz for the work he has done with us in these years. We have tried many times to launch the campaign again and every initiative which could be in solidarity with the Kurdish cause at every level. And we have done this not only for justice in the face of Öcalan's detention and the incredible repression that is constantly unfolding, with a double standard that only looks at some conflicts with one eye and turns a cold shoulder to the other conflicts. We also did this because of the acknowledgement and the gratitude towards an extraordinary people, an extraordinary man such as Ocalan, who even in this condition, keeps offering incredible theoretical ideas. And we've done this also because experiences such as Rojava hasn't only been, as a part of the public debate in this country says, it hasn't only been because in Rojava they have fought for us, on behalf of us, against ISIS. But it's also because the experience of Rojava and of democratic confederalism is extraordinarily useful for our own political struggle, for our own political perspective, for now and for tomorrow. An attempt and the success a partial success of this experiment in one of the areas which is most hostile to democracy in the entire world. This experience remains a great beacon for us, which we have to deepen our understanding of, and it's an important part of the global scenario today. Today, the discussion around the question of democracy and its stability is crucial. Our world today is being occupied once again by war as an ordinary solution to conflict. Techno-capitalism and the far right are putting democracy in jeopardy. And the question of democracy is extremely of utter importance today. Öcalan's contribution, which he has given, is of great interest and extremely precious. It's not just a matter of solidarity for us, but it's a matter of primary political interest. In this story, there is a lot for us to learn, but a lot for us to build as well. So we need to use every tool, and that's what we try to do. each one with their own tools, utilize every occasion to sustain, support the efforts that try to rebuild the possibility of a democratic process. Hope has been rekindled with the last few steps taken by Ocalan, but clearly hope isn't enough. Pressure from the international community and civil society has to keep going on Turkey, on Erdogan. Turkey is still a country where repression and democratic backsliding is becoming increasingly worrying, such as we can see from the arrest of the mayor of Istanbul. And so this confirms the necessity to keep pressure high, even from the entire international community. From this point of view, when in the Italian parliament a debate was opened on the new phase that Syria is facing after the fall of Assad's regime, we asked that the Italian government revise their relationships with the new Syrian elite and put a few checks in place. First of all, that the process that we see in Syria secures the experience of Rojava, and that it expresses elements of security, and from this point of view, we will keep on, for what is possible, we will keep on feeling like we're part of this great movement, which hasn't lost its motivation in these years, as we have heard from these last few speakers. In these years, this movement has built richness, political richness and political intelligence, the same intelligence that Öcalan, even after 26 years of great incarceration, has kept on offering all of us.
Thank you, Nicola Fratroiani, for your impressive description of the challenges we all face and how important it is that we stand together and that we all try. It's our own fight. It's not the fight only of the Kurdish people, and it's our ideas and our ideals that Öcalan Mr. Öcalan is fighting for. So we go to the next speaker. He's Mr. Emmanuel Fernandez. He's a member of Parliament and member of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very honored and proud to be here. Today, I will do it in English. I had prepared some notes in French, but I will try my best to do that in English today. Well, it has just been said that the fight for freedom for Abdullah Öcalan and for the Kurdish people is a concern for all of us, not only for Kurdish people, not only for people that are directly concerned, but the whole world is concerned because it's values of universal humanity that are in cause. And it is an international fight because, as it was said brilliantly previously, the rise of far-right regimes, of autocratic regimes all over the world, including the so-called leader of the democratic world, which are the United States of America, is not only a threat anymore, is real. So we have to face this rise of far-right all over the world and of autocratic regimes such the Turkish one, and be strong and stand together. That's why I am here today to represent La France, to represent France, to represent my political movement, La France Insoumise. And also, I would like to say, Le Nouveau Front Populaire, which is the coalition that in France won the previous general elections last summer, and it is a demonstration that if we manage to unite together and stand together, ecologists, socialists, communists, insoumis, like we do in France, we can win, we can beat the far right and the autocratic projects and manifestos. So I am here because this fight for freedom for Mr. Öcalan is legitimate, is universal, and also because it's a question of international law. It's just a question of right. And I am a member of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. I am, as a member of parliament in France, I am elected in Strasbourg, and as you know, Strasbourg is the place where the Council of Europe is sitting. And just in front of the Council of Europe in Strasbourg, there's this little house which has been, which is borrowed by some Kurdish friends who occupy this little house and who are there every single day for now 15 years to more than 15 years to demand the liberation, freedom for Abdullah Öcalan. And these people are there all the time, not only during the sessions from the Council of Europe. And it is very important that this visibility can keep on. So, as I said, as a member of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, I am raising the cause of Mr. Öcalan inside the institution, because it was said before, the way that Mr. Öcalan is imprisoned, is incarcerated in the Imrali prison goes completely against the Convention of Human Rights, the European Convention of Human Rights, which, by the way, was open to signatures for the first time here in Roma in 1950. So I think that the link between Strasbourg and Roma is done. And this judgment from 2014, which demands that Turkey enables Mr. Öcalan to have a right to hope and to have the possibility for his judgment to be re-examined, has to be implemented. A question was raised by my colleague Andrei Hunko from the European left, to which I belong in the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, this week to the chair of the Committee of Ministers, which is at the moment chairing the Council of Europe. And my colleague Andrei Hunko raised the point to know where we are on this demand to Turkey to just follow the rules that they signed for, because Turkey is a member of the Convention, European Convention of Human Rights and of the Council of Europe. So the head of the Committee of Ministers, who happens to be at the moment the Foreign Minister of Luxembourg, said that it is on the agenda, it has been on the agenda for years now, and that pressure is increasing on Turkey so that this implementation of this judgment of 2014 can at last be implemented. And not only in 2014, but it's since 2005 that the European Court of Human Rights has condemned Turkey for the inhuman conditions of incarceration of Mr. Öcalan, and for the absence of a fair trial and for the possibility to re-examine his judgment. So all these facts are against Article 3, Article 5, Article 6 of the European Convention of Human Rights. So, as I said, with my group, with my coalition in the Council of Europe, we keep the pressure on the institutions from the inside. I also have to quote somebody that is working hard there inside the European institutions, who is Mr. Faik Yagizai. He's doing a great work inside the institutions, not only the Council of Europe, but also the Parliament, the European Parliament, and he is yes, he's holding the cause of the Kurdish people at its highest point all the time in this international and European institutional environment. As a member also in France, back in France in the National Assembly, as a member of the study group on the Kurdish question, I am also active in putting pressure on the French government so that they also can pressurize Turkey so that the Kurdish cause gets solved and gets placed at the top of the agenda of the discussions between my country, France, and Turkey. And I'm also support of Mrs. Pinar Selek. You know, she's a French Turkish sociologist and researcher. She used to be a university teacher in Strasbourg for 12 years ago, and she's been harassed also by Turkish justice for more than 26 years now. She's made a lot of researches, including on minorities, on LGBTQI plus people, on feminist, also the feminist question, and on the Kurdish question in Turkey. And that's the reason why she's been harassed for more than 26 years now. And there is a new audience for her end of April. And I think, I know that all of us in this room support her, and we are also behind her, so her harassment as well can stop as soon as possible from Turkish justice. As an ex-member of the Parti de Gauche, which is the left-wing party in France, one of the left-wing political parties, I also must say that in this room we have Mr. Jean-Christophe Célin, who is the national secretary of this left party, the Parti de Gauche, and again, the left wing in general in France stands for the Kurdish cause and for the liberation of Mr. Öcalan. In France, for the last 10 years in Paris, there had been 6 murders of Kurdish activists, 3 back in 2013 and 3 other activists in 2023, and we demand from the French government that they can enable all the investigations on these murders to be accelerated and to find the guilty people who did that. And we also demand that Kurdish activists from France are not extradited to Turkey. That's also one of the demands that we have with my political party, La France Insoumise, which also demands that PKK has to be retired from the list of terrorist organizations from the European Union, because it was said before. I must say that this campaign that we are speaking about now for freedom for Abdullah Öcalan, for Mr. Öcalan, has worked and is working, because I was first elected in June 2022. Obviously, as I said, I was aware of the urgency for the Kurdish people to be free and to be recognized. But as an elected person, as a member of parliament since 2022, my engagement, my investment in this campaign for freedom for Mr. Abdullah Öcalan was boosted, was really accelerated by this campaign, through this campaign. And this is the reason why I'm part of you today. I am in this room and I have the chance and the honor to be at the microphone today. And I must tell you that I will not stop trying to do my best to help the Kurdish people and to help inside the institutions for the liberation of Mr. Öcalan. Just to conclude, yes, there is a peace process. Yes, there has been this declaration from Mr. Abdullah Öcalan from the Imrali prison. But obviously, for a process, for a peace process to go on and for negotiations to take place, you must have two parties at the same level. You must have same conditions for both parties to prepare their arguments, to consult their lawyers, and you cannot consider that the leader, the natural leader of one of the sides, which is the side of the Kurdish people, is in such inhuman inhuman conditions and in such indignity. So obviously the success of the peace process can only go together with freedom for Mr. Öcalan. So this is why we will keep on, from France, from everywhere, from here, from Italy, from Britain, from Germany, from everywhere, from all over the planet, keep on speaking up and speaking as loud as possible for the liberation of Mr. Öcalan. And thanks again for having me today, and I am proud to speak up for this right and this universal cause of the Kurdish people. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manuel Fernandez. Indeed, there's a really great need for pressure at the Parliament, and at the same time, a strong international solidarity for the cause of Öcalan and, of course, the Kurdish people, and all those people who have been struggling up to now. And now let's move to our next speaker, Ms. Diana Orea Herrera, a member of the Parliament of Basque Country. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. In this case, I am going to speak in Spanish. Arratsaldeon guztioi eta mila esker gu Euskal Herriko lagunok, Euskal Herriko militanteok beti Kurdistanekin. Esto lo he dicho en euskera, que es la lengua que tenemos en nuestro país, una lengua minoritaria del País Vasco. Quería, antes de empezar, poner en valor el gran trabajo que están haciendo las compañeras de traducción, porque no es nada fácil lo que estamos haciendo hoy. La prueba de que rendirse no es una opción la tenemos aquí, una sala abarrotada. Una sala abarrotada que dice alto y claro, Free Apo, Free Ocalan. Desde los pueblos del mundo y sobre todo desde los pueblos oprimidos, nos hermanamos y desde luego para Euskal Herria, para el pueblo vasco, Kurdistán es un hermano de lucha, el pueblo kurdo es un hermano de lucha con el que hemos hecho un largo camino y con el que seguiremos haciendo camino, porque no hay que olvidar nunca de dónde venimos. Hoy nos reúne en este maravilloso lugar de esta maravillosa ciudad, por cierto,
It's the first time that we visit, and it's a really special occasion. It's something really important to continue saying that the international community is more and more present than ever. We're not going to rest until Öcalan is free to walk around Rome, Euskirchen, and the streets of the world. The actions that we've carried out from our country have been very important in order to demand the liberty, the freedom of Öcalan, to demand the liberty of the Kurdish people and the systemic violations of human rights that criminals like Erdogan have carried out in a systematic way. The proof of this is the brutality of the sentence of the Permanent Tribunal of the Peoples. The systematic violations of human rights consist in human in violations of human rights. And we have to continue denouncing this. We have to continue reporting on this and criticizing this and denouncing that there's a leader fighting for peace in these moments. It's a moment in which war drums are beating. We're talking of a leader that fights for peace, that's carrying out a historic struggle of freedom for his people. And it's more important than ever to say that whoever is fighting for peace is going to continue fighting for peace. Last year, we organized in the Basque Country a conference to demand freedom for Ocalan. We organized, and Fernando Berrera took part in this conference, among other people. The lawyer who is carrying out the Freedom for Öcalan campaign, and we managed to talk in depth about the situations. And it's more important than ever denounce the situation in which many political prisoners like Öcalan find themselves in. Situations of isolation, torture, brutal situations. That's why we're really happy that since the important fundamental declaration that a few weeks ago came out, it seems to us a really important step, but it's absolutely not necessary. It's important but not enough, because those who fight for peace and liberty and freedom and the human rights of their people definitely shouldn't be in prison. They should be in the street fighting together with the citizens. And that's what we continue demanding for Abdullah Öcalan. There are many people that accompany us, social organizations, trade unions, political organizations. There are many territories, many nations like mine, Galicia, Catalonia, Euskera, Aragon, Asturias that are here. People who represent organizations that are sacrificing a lot to defend the Kurdish people. I think it's really important to continue articulating our struggles and prioritizing the defense of human rights and the rights of the Kurdish people. And also continue investigating, and that's why it's so important to have conferences like this one, that they will not pass. The Basque country is a country that fights for peace. It's a people that fights for peace, looks for peace. We've suffered. We know what it is to have political prisoners in prison. We know what suffering is in the defense of human rights. And from this fraternity, we continue in the fight, in the struggle, together with the Kurdish people. And from here, we say loudly and clearly that we will continue at your side. We will continue firmly accompanying the Kurdish people today and always. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. From the Basque position, you have understanding of what is going on in Kurdistan and how important it is to be respected as an own people. So now we go on to Mr. Mauricio Acervo. He is National Secretary of the, I don't know if I can read it really, of the Partito, but you have it on your papers, della Rifondazione Comunista, from the European Left Campaign Freedom for Öcalan in Italy. You have the floor, please.
Grazie, parlerò in italiano.
Thank you. I will be speaking in Italian since my English is terrible. But after all, it's a language that has had an imperial role in this story. I want to remember when Öcalan was here in Rome and we were fighting for the acknowledgement of the right to asylum. And there was a phone call to the Prime Minister to ask him not to grant Öcalan political asylum. We have to remember that Europe, the Middle East, and the world had the chance to undertake a peace process many years ago, because President Öcalan here in Italy was here in Italy to launch his proposal of peace. But the answer was 26 years of illegal detention in the prison island of Imrali. I want to remember him, bringing the greetings of our comrade Mantovani, who accompanied Öcalan here in Rome. Our constitution, which was born out of the anti-fascist resistance, says that those who come to our territory from a country where democratic rights aren't granted has the right to political asylum. Italy, democratic Italy, wasn't in solidarity as she should have based on the constitution. For this reason, as anti-fascists, we have always believed it a duty for us to contribute to the liberation of Öcalan. We feel we are in debt, and we think about what would have happened in our continent, in our country, when during fascism, if the fathers of our republic had been given back to Italy, to Benito Mussolini when they were in exile. What would have happened if they had been given back to Hitler and Mussolini? I think that the struggle for the liberation of Abdullah Öcalan is a struggle to find the anti-fascist roots of Europe. It is also a struggle to remind many that there is no way to peace if not by acknowledging the rights of everybody. In this moment, capitalist modernity is bringing us to war of everybody against everybody. The state reason is using peoples as fodder to the interests of the rich and powerful. Fighting for liberation of Öcalan means not only proposing a solution of peace and democracy for Turkey and for the entire Middle East, but also to propose a key to face the problems that humanity is facing. Humanity which is always risking to end up into commercial war and actual warfare. For us, Öcalan isn't just the leader of a people, but he's also our comrade. He is an example of revolutionary thought, someone who is capable of renewing ancient ideals and making them adequate to the epoch. We think that a communist revolution is necessary because our history has to be known but also critiqued. And democratic confederalism is a big reference point that has a place in a very long tradition. It has been said earlier that for some, Öcalan is a revolutionary, for some a philosopher, for some an intellectual, for some a political prisoner. He is each and every one of these things. And Antonio Gramsci reminds us from the fascist prisons. He also elaborated a thought that gave the way to a winning process against fascism. Today, Öcalan's struggle is a common one. I can't not remember various comrades that I have known in these years in traveling through Kurdistan and Turkey, the comrades which are currently in prison in Turkey. As Italian comrades, as European comrades, we have to keep insisting on the liberation of Öcalan, and also that the European Union do everything in its power to liberate all of the political prisoners in Turkey, and to do everything in its power starting from lifting the ban on the PKK and defining the PKK as a terrorist organization has been the way to build the campaign against Apo. We will never forget him, and we will never forget that, and we will never forget the defamation and the way he was represented. At the time, the public opinion didn't know about the Kurdish struggle. We were very few who knew about it. But today, a majority of the population knows and empathizes with the Kurdish cause. We don't. This isn't because of the media, but it's because of the example that the activists and the fighters, the Kurdish fighters, have given in these years. I want to remember especially the heroic resistance of Kobane. It is a duty for Europe, which speaks many words of democracy. It is a duty for Europe to defend Rojava and its experience of self-government, of tolerance, of communal living, coexistence. The last thing I want to say is that the request for the liberation of Öcalan is similar to the one for Nelson Mandela. There are no treaties from inside a prison. The process of peace in South Africa, which avoided a bloodbath, is an example. So the first step towards peace is the liberation of Abdullah Öcalan. And I'll finish by saying that between the many things that he has taught us, that Öcalan has taught us, there is a very important lesson that I think all of us have to learn, not just the radical militant left, but also the state elites of this planet. Even regardless of the systemic violence that the Kurdish people has endured, the words of Öcalan aren't words of resentment and of hate. They are words that are animated by a message of peace and humanity. A message that is what the planet and the humanity needs the most right now while they are trying to bring us into war. This is why we think that while from Gaza to Ukraine, a conflict without end ensues and a massacre without end in Ukraine, we think that democratic confederalism teaches that the ways of intelligence, of rationality, of human emotion, and those of liberation of people, they can march together towards peace, and that the only answer to the contradictions that we are living, freedom for Öcalan, freedom for all of the political prisoners in Turkey, in the Middle East, and in Europe.
Thank you so much, Maurizio. And now let us move to our next speaker, Mr. Mike Arnott, Secretary of Dundee Trade Unions Council. To your floor.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. I will be speaking in English because that is my language from Scotland. I'd also like to thank the young man who came out and picked me up from the airport because my flight to Edinburgh was delayed by 3 hours, which is why I've had a frantic couple of hours. I'm sad to report that there is no evidence of a change of attitude from the relatively new British Labour government elected last year, either on Ocalan in particular or on Turkey and the Erdogan government in general. But British police did raid the Kurdish Community Centre in London earlier this year and arrested 6 members of the London Kurdish community under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. So the British government are still quite willing to do Erdogan's bidding when he puts out a call. The same thing happened in Scotland a number of years ago. The Kurdish Community Centre in Edinburgh was raided by police, and they went and paid house calls to a number of members, arrested some, and they confiscated Kurdish flags and leaflets. So the British government is still quite willing to do the bidding of Erdogan's government in putting pressure on Kurdish citizens and the Kurdish community in Scotland and in the UK. 2 years ago, as president of the Scottish TUC, I was honoured to be invited to join protests outside the European parliaments in both Brussels and Strasbourg, where Kurdish community speakers and international trade union supporters called for the European Union, the Council of Europe, and its Committee for the Prevention of Torture to act on Abdullah Öcalan's continuing isolation in Imrali prison and to work for his release. I was privileged to be able to add the voice of the Scottish TUC and its 600,000 affiliate members to that call, because Britain, although it has withdrawn from the European Union after Brexit, we still play a part in the Council of Europe, and so we have a way to put pressure on the British government to act on that. And last year, our Confederation called on the UK's new Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, to take up the issue of the continued isolation of Abdullah Öcalan in Imrali prison. We have long established policy agreed at our annual Congress calling for the restoration of Turkish government negotiations with Abdullah Öcalan and for a peaceful settlement to the Kurdish question in Turkey. We have for many years expressed concerns at the repression of the Kurdish people within Turkey, but also in Iraq, in Iran, and in Syria, and have raised these issues with previous UK foreign secretaries. We told David Lammy of our belief that the Kurdish question is a critical issue in Turkey and in the wider region for achieving peace, for achieving democracy and respect for human rights, and that Öcalan's release would be a significant and a crucial step forward. I raise again that call on David Lammy on behalf of the United Kingdom government to make representations to the Turkish government, urging them to work towards Öcalan's release as a positive move towards resolving the Kurdish question in Turkey. But I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Kurdish Progressive Movement and to thank Abdullah Öcalan. Thank you for the influence of your movement, for your ideas, not just on how to change things in the Kurdish homeland, but on how we can all hope for a different society. Your movement is helping to change the way we think about the importance of women in our societies, on the importance of the environment, and on how we organize ourselves to live together in our communities, and on how we build those communities. And we thank you for Rojava and for what it represents through its ongoing revolution. Ocalan, at the heart of this, should be recognized as one of the most influential thinkers in the world today. His writings offer us alternatives to religious sectarianism, to patriarchy, to regressive nationalism, and to capitalism itself. Democratic confederalism opens new doors for us all to move forward. The struggle of Ocalan and the Kurdish people is an inspiration to us all. We salute the resilience of the Kurdish people, your refusal to submit in the face of arrests, the attacks on your languages, on your music, on your culture, and on your political organizations. Your courage and resilience in the face of harassment of your communities at home and abroad, and the killing of your people in Turkey, in Syria, in Iraq, and in Iran, your courage is inspiring. We stand with you. We will continue to do what we can to support you in our united struggle to release Abdullah Öcalan and for you all to be free to speak your languages, to sing your songs, to dance your dances, and to live in security, in freedom, and in peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike, for this appeal, for this cordial appeal, which we agree, I think. And now it's a pleasure for me to introduce to you Mr. Keskin Bayındır. He's a member of parliament of the DEM party and co-chair of the Democratic Regions Party, and he came from Ahmet to give us your speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm going to speak in my language, in Kurdish language. This is my very first time that I am taking part in such a conference and in Rome. I come from North Kurdistan. Indeed, when I came to this Rome, I had these emotions because I remembered those days, because Rome has a significance in our struggle, and our Kurdish leader spent 50 days in this town. That's why Rome has a significant place. And there is even a song written about Rome. It says, Serok came to Rome and he shook the throne of the rulers. So in this room, I see your participation, turnout, your struggle, your efforts for liberation of Mr. Öcalan. After 26 years, we see indeed the throne of the rulers is still shaking, and thanks to your struggle, Öcalan will be free. Yes, Mr. Öcalan, it's like 27 years now. It's been he's a captive. And the last 10 years, he was subjected to a very aggravated isolation. And the last 2-3 months, we have been talking about a new process of peace or resolution, but the isolation on him is still going on. Before the delegation, there were some delegations paid visit to Imrala Island. That's true, but all these visits took place under the close observance or monitoring of the Turkish state. On the 27th of February, he made a historic call. The slogan, the motto was for peace and democratic society. In the history of the people's struggle, we see leaders. There are so many leaders. The leaders who are in captivity, they mostly think of themselves and they sell out their own people. But the difference, Mr. Öcalan is very obvious here, and it is something holy. His leadership and his stance, not only for the Kurdish people, but for all the people in the Middle East and all the difficulties they face in the Middle East. And despite all the difficulties, all the difficulties that he faced, yet he made a call for call. His cipher is based on peace. It is also respecting all the differences, depending on their ethnicity. It doesn't matter, irrespective of their religion or ethnicity or any other and feature. So his work is actually for everyone. And today, being here, listening to you, I see that Öcalan's ideology is now well spread among, not only in the Middle East, but also among the Europeans. And Öcalan is selfless. He's not thinking of himself at all. He's thinking of the people. He's thinking of the interest of the people. And that he is working, or he is demanding a life based on equality and justice and all the oppressed people. He is working for all the oppressed people. And I believe that this campaign, this struggle, it will bring freedom for Mr. Öcalan, and it will bring a solution for Kurdish question. The rulers, the ones in power in Turkey, when they after they make the negotiation table collapsed in 2015, they thought they will suppress the movement, they will suppress the Kurdish people. But yet they also thought that with their politics against the Kurdish people, they will make the Kurdish people forget about Öcalan. But that was the basics of their the last 10 years of politics. But 2023 in October, we started a campaign in Europe, and simultaneously in Kurdistan we started the same campaign. On two different sides, we started this campaign in East Kurdistan, and the other side was from the north. Okay, sorry. One was from northeast, one side, and then northwest from Tinder. There are like 74 youngsters. They walked because it was Öcalan's 74th birthday. And on the 15th of February 2024, we ended our march in Amara village where Öcalan is born. And your struggle, your efforts that you have been putting in this campaign for years, and it also has its echo, it finds its answer in North Kurdistan. I don't know how much you can follow them in the social media or on the TV, but maybe we will have time. We can also talk about the periods after Öcalan made the call, how it was echoed in North Kurdistan, in every Kurdish city. We can say this campaign that you started, the main objective was that we have our self-confidence and we become more powerful. That worked, and all the this campaign was a very strong answer in the face of the politics of the Turkish government and their partner MHP, the Nationalist Party, that have been trying to make Öcalan forgotten, and now today we know that all over the world Mr. Öcalan's call is now discussed, but yet there is still isolation. Isolation is still going on. We have to increase our work. We have to do our initiatives for diplomacy, for the people, everyone who are supporting this cause, everyone supporting Kurdish cause. We have to reach out more people and bring all these struggles together and make it even more widespread all over the world. In order to that, we still have lots to do. But one of the main obstacles, we destroyed it. It was that Turkish government has failed. They thought if they increase the pressure, nobody will make Öcalan's idea their own, or they will not support Öcalan's idea, but they failed. We destroyed the first obstacle, barrier in front of us. And so everybody might ask, what happened that on the 1st of October, the leader of the ultra-nationalist party, Bahçeli, spoke and talked about peace. It's why one of the reasons was, of course, the latest developments in the Middle East. But a bigger factor was the struggle of the Kurdish people. That's the struggle of yours that you conducted for Öcalan's freedom. So, and it's also very clear that we can see how Mr. Öcalan is still very influential, what kind of response his call received after he made the call. That shows that he's very influential and very well respected, and now he has full support of the Kurdish people from every part of Kurdistan. You just need to be self-confident. We need to be self-confident. At the end, we will reach our goal. We will achieve it. And leader Öcalan, leader of the people, the philosopher of democracy, a defender of freedom, and in a near future, Öcalan will be free thanks to our struggle. We also listened to the background of this campaign, the long background since the day that he was captured as a result of international conspiracy. The motto was that you cannot darken our sun. And that struggle that started 26 years ago, now today it reached its peak, a historical turning point today. And in Kurdistan, now we'll talk about the process. We say, colloquially, we call it a peace, process of freedom, but after his call, after Öcalan's call, it is the turn of the Turkish government to take necessary steps. And the very first step is the release of Abdullah Öcalan. Freedom of Mr. Öcalan and the solution of the Kurdish question, the conditions or the circumstances for it, there are historical reasons, sociological reasons, they are all interrelated. We cannot separate them. So we say, if Turkey, if a solution to be developed in Turkey, rights, the legitimate rights of Kurdish people to be recognized, the precondition is that elevating the isolation on Öcalan, and he needs to be free in order to play his own, because Öcalan is the interlocutor of this process, interlocutor of the Kurdish people. And me, as a Kurd, and I have my colleagues here, my comrades from North Kurdistan who live in exile in Europe now, we all know that Turkish state and the government every time that they increase the suppression or the oppression against the Kurdish people, it starts on İmralı Island. They increase this oppression on Öcalan, they make their trial, they test it, and then they apply the same oppression on the Kurdish people. Therefore, the freedom of Abdullah Öcalan and freedom of the Kurdish people, they are like two circles in each other. You cannot separate them. We cannot forget this in our diplomacy work, in our contacts with the state. We need to underline it. Freedom of Mr. Öcalan and freedom of Kurdish people are connected. They are interrelated, interdependent. So what we need for this, Turkish state and the AKP government, they need to take some steps. What is this? What are these steps? Is the freedom of Mr. Öcalan, and he can lead the process which will bring a solution to the Kurdish question based on democracy and the values. And then with a new constitution, we can solve the Kurdish problem in Turkey. The impact of Öcalan's call in the world, it was huge on the governments, on the states, from the US to China, from Germany to and all the other European countries. They welcomed this call, they responded to this call. That shows that Mr. Öcalan, he took the geopolitics and conjunctures in the Middle East politics, and then he made this call, and he also proposed an alternative system. His proposal is a model not only for the Kurdish question, but for the solution of all the questions in the region. In the world, we know that the connections, the interstate relationships are all based on war and expansion. And every day on TV, we hear Trump's statements. He's using the language of threat, language of violence. And he thinks that if they are powerful, they are in power, they are in control, and they can control the rest. And in the Middle East, since the end of 1999, Mr. Öcalan describes the situation in the Middle East as the Third World War. And it is going on, developing step by step. And we see in the Middle East there is a hot war. And this is also the Kurdistan. There is the world has no alternative but peace. But we see all the governments are they are arming, they are fighting, they are causing for forced migration, they are producing more refugees. But Öcalan's proposal is talking about a coexistence with respect to their cultural identities, religious identities, that different ethnicities, different religions can exist peacefully, they live peacefully in a region. So it is a roadmap. This is an historic model. This is an alternative to the system that the world proposes. When we talk about Palestine and Israel, all the states in the world, they say the solution is a two-state solution, is the only way. They all talk about two-state solution for Palestine and Israel. But Mr. Öcalan says building new artificial nation states in the Middle East will bring more destruction in the end. When we look at the history of Kurdish issue, which has a history of like 150 years, we see it started because of the nation states. Instead, a solution should be based on democracy, and the key for this solution is the democracy. Therefore, with this path, this road for Kurdish people, for the struggle of Kurdish people, but also for the Turkish government and Turkish people, is the easiest way, this road that Öcalan proposes. There is a month passed over this call, but from the side of the Turkish state, we don't see a positive steps towards the road proposed by Öcalan. They haven't taken any steps yet. So it's a burden on us, on our participants here, all the campaigners and our friends and our supporters. Although the Kurdish question is a question of Kurdistan, maybe it's only discussed in Turkey, but Kurdish question is a universal one. So everywhere you can put pressure on Turkish government through lobbying, through the diplomatic efforts. We have to put pressure on our governments, our state, so that this process can develop towards a permanent peace, so that all these governments can also put pressure on Erdogan and the Turkish state. This is a burden on us. This is our task. Everyone who are in favor of law, justice, and equality, and those and those who are trying to prevent and stop all this bloodshed that is taking place in the Middle East and claiming thousands of casualties every day, we all need to we should continue our struggle to prevent, to stop this migration, bloodshed and destruction in the Middle East, and I'm convinced that we have the power. That's why this is a very valuable work, a very difficult one, but also a very valuable one. And I believe that, I'm convinced that this work, this tough work that we are doing will end up with freedom of Mr. Öcalan and freedom of Kurdish people. It will also liberate all the oppressed people. And once again, I would like to salute you all with all the respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Keskin, especially for reminding that the struggle of freedom for Ocalan and the Kurdish people are two interrelated and inseparable struggles. Thank you for reminding us of the value of coexistence, plurality, and of course, the character of a universal struggle. And now let's move to our next speaker. We will have here Honorable Emily Clancy, the Vice Mayor of Bologna.
Thank you very much, comrade. With many of you, we were together in October 2023 in Brussels to the International Conference on Political Prisoners in Turkey and for the freedom of Ocalan and for a political solution for the Kurdish people. And I agree with one of the first speech. We won somehow for the simple fact that a few years ago these demands seemed impossible, but nowadays they look at something that is more real. So we are closer to victory right now. I want to thank you from heart, because if it was not for Rete Kurdistan Italia and many movements and parties and collectives all over the world, this would not be possible, and we would not be here today for this extraordinary struggle led by the Kurdish people. In Bologna, also thanks to association like Yabasta, the link between our city and the Kurdish movement, the Kurdish people, has been consolidated and is strong. And throughout the years, many people have been welcomed. The International Prize Daniele Polkam, that was established a few years ago, has been given to Kurdish people activists. So our city actually look for and keep an eye on the violation in Turkey and on the repression on the Kurdish people. Also within the heart of democracy, because such violations also affects journalists, students, teachers, and so on. So a few days ago, on the facade of our city council, the mayor put a banner asking for the freedom of the mayor of Istanbul. So many things have already been said on the figure of Ocalan, on his thought, on the incredible experience of democratic confederalism, which are today probably one of the most important heritage for the neo-municipalists. So as for movements such as the one I'm part of, this movement would not be the same if it was not for this heritage, for this political heritage. So if today we are feminist, eco-socialist, anti-capitalist, if we get the importance of bottom-up organization and the idea of working for a community, if we are rooted in our cities, in our streets, also keeping an eye on the international solidarity and respecting the right of self-determination, this is also thanks to the thought of Abdullah Öcalan. And I think it is important to state this, thinking about the many parties and movements of the left. For many decades also, European left has lost itself within struggles, internal struggles, struggles for civil rights and social rights, keeping separated, for instance, questions related to social rights. But there was a thinker like Murray Bookchin who was able to see how these all were connected, and we had to think on the level of oppression, which is force and labor oppression, which is the oppression of gender, oppression of humanity against planet. If we do not defeat these issues, we will not be the united left that we need. And Ocalan always said that with great clarity. So I'm really glad to be able to announce that a few weeks ago, thanks to a request from Coalizione Civica in our city, the citizenship, the honorary citizenship, has been granted to Ocalan. And a few days ago, in a ceremony with his nephew, we are going to give the citizenship to Ocalan. And even though he has not been freed yet, we are going to fight until he will be released. And from Monday, we are going to have in Bologna a new citizen. Mille.
We need a lot of people who are, or communities who are following this, Maybe this might be put some pressure as well, I think. So our next speaker will be Mr. Piero Bernotti, spokesperson of the Grassroots Trade Union.
A few weeks ago, I published on my website, my personal website, a kind of complaint of protest. I wanted to speak to comrades. I use this term to indicate all of those kind of anti-capitalist leftists, which works in a diffused way in our country. I said, how is it possible that giving the massive mobilization for the Palestinian people, there's nothing analogous, nothing similar for the Kurdish people? I'm not saying, I don't mean exactly the same, but a tenth maybe. I'm talking about Italy here, because the proportion is very notable. Why is it that no university of Italy has been occupied, even a small classroom, to defend the Kurdish people's struggle? Why? How is it possible that there's not been any proposals, boycotts? Why has nobody been attacking Erdogan as we justifiably attack Netanyahu? But have Kurdish people not lost enough blood? They haven't even given their blood for themselves. The struggle that has prevented Daesh, ISIS, to continue and go on from its stronghold was not won by the US, I say US people, not America, because America is a grand continent and the United States is just a sixth of the continent. So we shouldn't give them the name of the whole continent. Not talking about the last 20, 30 years, but the last centuries. The elimination, the genocide. I didn't get any response, any serious responses. Some complaints, because it seemed like I was trying to diminish the Palestinian struggle. And a few replies, I'm embarrassed to even talk about them, saying that the Kurdish people are imperialists, proud imperialists, because they were helped by the US. Apart from the fact that the help of the US was not really a real help, because they knew that because nobody actually went there to help ISIS and Daesh. It was useful for everyone that the Kurdish people fought on behalf of everyone. But immediately afterwards, once that period was cancelled from memory, Biden, and let's not even mention Trump, didn't give any arms. Our partisans got quite a lot of weapons from the US and from the UK. Anyway, this reply is not a real reply. It's an idiotic reply. There's no real reply. What makes me most indignant is not really to try and compare about who fights better, who fights more, who sacrificed more. But as Emily was saying now, basically, democratic confederalism, the practical translation of an anarchic theory starts there. But Öcalan has brought that into a real situation. And I think that the biggest lesson from that, not particularly from the lessons that she said to do with the experiences of environmentalism, etc., but I think for the whole anti-capitalist Italian and European left and global left since the Second World War. I started doing in politics, anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist politics 60 years ago. I think I've defended all of the anti-imperialist fights that there've been, from Cuba to Vietnam to Palestine, obviously, to Nicaragua, Portugal, although that wasn't really an anti-imperialist fight. And then we arrived at the struggle for the Kurdish people that has been there since 150 years at least, but in the last years has become more prominent. If I have to compare, I don't think there is any way of comparing. I defended the struggle of the Vietnamese, but I never shared their lines. I was never gastrista, and I never liked what happened next, because there wasn't really a new theory there. There wasn't any kind of innovation. The theory that Emily was explaining that put together so many aspects of the anti-capitalist conflicts, because anti-capitalism has loads of faces. If you want to fight capitalism with only one level, like the economic level or the military level, it's going to fail. You need to present a societal level that is completely different.
You have seen that, as you have shared some experiences with me, you've seen the same things I've seen, and you've seen that the Vietnamese struggle has shared some. Also, Lenin had interesting political thought, but it has also produced the dictatorship of a party. But here we are talking about a theory which becomes concrete, becomes actual struggle. And I challenge you to try and find something that isn't okay with this theory. And as Keskin reminded us earlier, Kurdish politics doesn't aim to create another state, but defies statism. It wants to absorb all possible components of society without crushing them under a state, without creating a dictatorship, without choosing an ethnicity, but trying to include all of them, which is extremely difficult, but they made this possible in reality. In Kurdish Syria, there aren't just Kurds, but also different ethnicities. And many people say that other liberation movements say that they are feminist, but the Kurdish movement has actually done it. And the roles of men and women are completely equal. I've had the impression that the women are even more combative than the men. So I'm sure that there is complete equality. And so if we want to talk about the sexism of other experiences, of the religious and fundamentalism of other experiences, the hate against other sexualities of other genders in other experiences in the world. So I ask myself, the people who are looking for models of political action, why don't they actually incorporate this theory in their action? Why does the Italian movement doesn't actually incorporate this in their own praxis? There's a disproportion, and I am worried about this because it means that the model of a different society has changed shape, and we've lost the path. So this model has shown extraordinary pacifism, as we see from the example of Ocalan, which has been imprisoned for 26 years. I would be extremely angry if I were in his situation, and I would be extremely angry against those who imprisoned me, those who made me go there. But still, Öcalan expresses himself like an apostle, as though he were like he is telling the gospel against the perfectly pacific, even against his enemies. So I don't understand why there isn't a political openness to all of this. I don't share the optimism, which I don't know if it's necessary. I don't share the optimism towards the answers that Turkey is going to give, but not because I am diffident by nature. There is a critique of some passages of the conflicts of the movement. I haven't found any problem in all of these years, but as the deputy correctly stated, it's only been 2 months, and it's not like there haven't been any positive signs. One very important sign has been the arrest of Imamoglu. He was imprisoned with the possibility, with other 150 members of the party. And I know that you all know this.
There's who hopes that he will keep the immigrants at bay. Everybody closes an eye. So, if I have to tell you the truth, I don't really see such an enthusiastic situation. I think it's important to reinforce the fact that everyone's making deals. They weren't really anti-imperialists. I hear these kind of bullshit in going around. So I'd make a call without shame, without being embarrassed. We're not in Italy. We're not ready for this. We're not at the level of this. I hear these applause to Rome, but Rome betrayed Öcalan. If Öcalan is in prison, not us Romans, but who was in command? Who was in command when Öcalan when they gave up Öcalan and they betrayed Öcalan. He came to Italy trusting, and he was completely betrayed. In this way, I think we have few figures in Italy, heroic figures, especially if we leave behind the resistance and we go ahead. There's really, really few heroes. One of them is Lorenzo Orsetti. It's difficult. Lorenzo wrote one thing before dying. He said, "When I will die, when you read this, I will be dead. Know that I died willingly, because I died for the most glorious thing ever. I gave my life for the Kurdish people." I know that in the Kurdish pantheon, Lorenzo is there. I'd want him to also be in our Italian pantheon, and that we remembered him much, much more regularly, because we don't have enough heroes like him.
Thank you, Piero. The emotional adding to our round. We now call for Mrs. Maria Jose Cani, Human Rights Director. She's not coming from Argentina. She is on the screen. So you have the floor.
Buenos días.
Good morning to everyone, to all the comrades. At the beginning, I will thank for the invitation, and I greet the conference to carry out the political action that is needed now to win finally the freedom of Abdullah. We need to tell you that in our country here in Argentina, together with the Kurdish women's movement in November of last year, we began the chapter of the campaign here in Argentina. In the defense of democracy, of human rights, and for the solidarity, international solidarity with all the political prisoners of the whole world.
Not only in the region, but in the whole world. Continuing with the comrades, we managed to bring together more than 500 signatures from organizations, trade unions, political, religious organizations, human rights, and different personalities of the region. And we showed with strength that Latin America is not going to turn their back on the Kurdish people. On the other hand, it is going to accompany them, and that it's decided to work together on their objectives. Also, many deputies from different parties and socialist workers' parties who supported on the National Congress of our country, and with who we managed to have a public audience, which was banned by Milei's Argentinian government, which was denounced by all the organizations, obviously. Facing this important action that we continue to work on, we presented this Argentinian work to the European Union about, and also to the United Nations, and to the United Nations Convention, And this important action of solidarity, these political actions that we explained in Argentina, obviously also had the aim to support all of the actions that have been carried out, not only by Kurdish organizations, but also by the Kurdish people. And in this context, it's fundamental for us, especially from the region, to continue to visibilize and advance in all the corners of the world the campaign to continue to demand that the cruel system of isolation and torture that Öcalan lives in the Imrali prison, we continue demanding and denouncing the persecution, the political persecution against and against communitarian values, which are oppressed by the desire for the resources, geopolitical situation, and resources. And we continue demanding and fighting for the freedom of the immediate freedom of Öcalan against the European Court of Human Rights in 2014, so that for once they can contribute to a solution, democratic solution to the Kurdish conflict. We're not only committed to continuing the strengthening of this international unity with the human rights of peoples, with every people that finds itself in struggle, especially the Kurdish people. We're also continuing with the necessity to support the Kurdish conflict in the Middle East and in its global relevance, which is going to allow us to continue to continue with actions in the campaign for the freedom of Öcalan. I mean this in the sense that from the campaign and here in Argentina, those who were not particularly studying the international situation or on internationalists don't really know much about the conflict. So it seemed fundamental to us to continue deepening the knowledge of the struggle, the campaign, the conflict in the Middle East. And finally, not less important, but still finally, we have to greet and celebrate the fact that there's been, given the pressures and the campaigns and the political actions that have been developed, that now there's been able to be visits to Öcalan in the name of democracy and path in the 27th of February in a context for the Middle East and the world. In this road, we continue sharing our experiences from Latin America. We continue convinced that we need to continue building organization and more unity for the freedom, the definitive freedom of Abdullah Öcalan. Thank you very much.
Maria Cano. And now let's move, last but not the least, may I call on the Mayor of Martano, Pavio Tarantino.
Grazie.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be able to participate in this conference full of comrades, full of people that I have met in these years and that have honored me with their friendship, with their presence, even in my own city. I have been invited here, and I do this with pleasure, as I do every time it is possible for me to physically be together with Wiki and all the protests and marches in solidarity of the Kurdish people. My city, Martano, in the province of Lecce, in the region of Apulia, is a city which, since 1997-98, has started a collective in solidarity with the Kurdish people, with a lot of comrades. And in these 30 years, it has bared its fruits. A political activity that has seen an administration before mine, which gave citizenship to Leyla Zana, who was a Kurdish political prisoner. And my administration in 2017, during our first mandate, gave the honorary citizenship to Abdullah Öcalan. In 2018, by request of the Kurdish public opinion, we went to Strasbourg in a march which was held in the Strasbourg Square, and we were welcomed by the different administrations of Italy to be heard by the Committee Against Torture. In that occasion, we asked the Permanent Committee to verify the conditions of our fellow citizen Abdullah Öcalan, and that was realized, that was done. The Commission visited the prison of Imrali. I remember the lawyers that represent Öcalan in Italy. They participated in that session of the city council where the citizenship was given to Öcalan. I remember the lawyer Angelelli. I remember Malinconico. I remember the lawyer Salerni. We've always moved in the attempt to acknowledge the Kurdish question in the name of Dino Frisullo, who in Puglia has taught us to love Kurdistan. And this is the teaching that we have brought forth. Today, in front of this conference, of this crowd, of these guests, who I thank, I have listened to them with great attention, and I thank them for the testimony they have brought. I brought here the banner of the City Council. We are in solidarity with the Kurdish people. I see here the father of Lorenzo Rossetti, Orso. I greet him. Our administration, thanks to a local artist, has probably been the first to have inaugurated a monument, a statue dedicated to Lorenzo Rossetti in the villa of the municipality of Martano. We have done this to state that there is a connection. Today, Öcalan speaks of a process of disarmament of the PKK and of a process of peace. In reality, Öcalan has always spoken about peace. Those who define Öcalan as a terrorist are guilty, and they have done that for... When we gave the citizenship to Öcalan, the local right was campaigning to delete the point of discussion, stating that Öcalan was a terrorist and enabler of a terrorist organization. Instead, we say that those who defend themselves are not terrorists, those who defend their own city, their own state, even if it's not recognized, aren't terrorists. They are people who fight for their own rights. We have seen what has been done in Rojava, what has been done especially thanks to the strength of the values of the Kurdish women. This process of peace has been started. I listened to Bernocchi earlier, who has gave a very beautiful speech. There's not much to be calm about. I see a possibility in front of Erdogan. Allow me to do this political consideration. It is true that Erdogan, on an international level, is being enabled by many people, but in the heart of Turkey, a very strong opposition is forming. So the political question, the internal political question to Turkey, even in relation to the Kurdish question, in relation to what this process can bring to the Kurdish population, today there is a question mark. There could be plot twists, which Erdogan needs to strategically to have a few internal enemies less, internal enemies. So I also join in on the appeal to long live the freedom for Kurdistan, long live Öcalan, and freedom for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Fabio. And just before we will close this first day of this conference, I would like to thank all the speakers who really bring hope to our struggles, to the struggle of the Kurdish people. And they are also leaving us a big challenge to sustain this struggle and to remember that it is our responsibility to continue this one, to bring real, just, and lasting peace for the Kurdish people. Viva Kurdistan!
Freedom for Ocalan.